Is residential solar still a good investment in 2024? Or is it just a tool being used by the wealthy to avoid having to deal with load shedding on a daily basis? In this video, I'm going to take a look at what my experience has been over the past 4 months since installing my residential solar. I'm going to take those numbers, run some forecasts on there to see if it's still a good investment in 2024. I want to start off by saying I'm not affiliated, sponsored, or in any way part of any solar company. I paid for my solar myself, and this is just my experience, my views, and I'm hoping it will add value to someone looking to install solar themselves or who has done so in the recent past and wants to know what they can expect from their system. This video is going to be a first in a series on my experiences with solar in South Africa. So if you're interested in that, like the video and get subscribed and come along for the journey. So by paying an initial lump sum for a system, we are now harvesting the sun's power, and our solar panels are then converting that into electricity, which we're then able to use at that moment in time. Or we charge our batteries or our electricity storage system, and that in turn will then power our house when the sun goes down. And that's why it's so important to make sure that you're installing the right size system for your needs. So it's essentially like installing a massive generator or a residential size generator just to charge your phone. So they'll both be able to charge your phone, but that massive generator is going to cost you much more to run than the smaller one. So the bigger your system, the bigger your initial cost will be, which in turn will mean that you'll need to produce much more electricity to pay off that system. Whereas the smaller one running at full capacity or close to full capacity will be working all the time at that lower cost, producing electricity and paying off that system in a much shorter time period. So in my case, or with my example, my system cost me 105,600 Rand. Now, how I size that system is not the topic of this video. I want to go into it in a future video, so if you're interested in that, get subscribed and we can go into that in that future video. But for now, it's just important to note we have a 5 kilowatt inverter, 6 kilowatt battery and 4.2 kilowatts of installed solar panel capacity. The batteries and the inverter came with a 10-year warranty, while the solar panels came with 25 years warranty. This is important to note because then we can reasonably expect our system to reliably be producing electricity over the next 10 years. But how do we calculate that return on investment that we're expecting? What we are effectively doing is paying an initial lump sum and then using that system that we bought to give us a saving on our electricity bill. And that saving is almost what we can compare to a dividend, because we won't be paying that. And as those savings happen, we'll be paying off the system. And once paid off, we'll start returning on our investment until the end of the lifetime of our system. And I'm sure at this point, no one's a stranger to South Africa's power crisis. So if we take a look at this graph of Eskom's electricity tariffs over the past 3.5 decades, you'll notice in the first 2 decades that the electricity tariffs remained relatively flat compared to inflation. Now, this was due to an oversupply at Eskom at the time, and the government wanted to shield poor households from high electricity tariffs. But in 2007, after many years of little to no investment in infrastructure at Eskom and the start of many years of corruption, there's a drastic change, and electricity tariffs over the next decade and a half steeply increased to a point in 2022 where customers were now paying, after adjusting for inflation, 4 times the amount for the same amount of electricity that they were in 2007. Now, this information just helps us to forecast. So after these many years of corruption and the expectation that it will take a while to get rid of that in South Africa, we can also see that Eskom needs to add 14,000 kilometers of transmission lines to be able to facilitate much needed energy producers in the national grid. Now, this will come at great cost, and analysts are forecasting that electricity increases are yet to stay with many forecasting increases up to 15% annually. Now, my current electricity tariff is R3.21 per unit, but this essentially means that my system is paying me R3.21 or returning me R3.21 every time it produces 1 kilowatt hour, by me not having to purchase that same 1 kilowatt hour from my power utility. So if we take a look at my SolarMan Smart app, you'll be able to see in statistics that over the past 123 days, my system has produced 2,090 kilowatt hours. So that equates to roughly 17 kilowatt hours per day. As you can see, my grid feeding is close to zero. So all of that electricity was used, and this is what it has returned over the past 4 months. And this is the number we will be using to forecast what we will be expecting over the next 10 years. We can now input those numbers that we just discussed into this Excel spreadsheet. This is a template that will be available in the description of the video down below. So if you want to use your own numbers and put them in there to see what your forecasts look like, you're welcome to do so. But what this will do is just give us an annualized rate of return. So that annualized rate of return is in a percentage, and it just makes it easier for us to compare it to, say, a stock market return of 10%. We have that comparison over here as well. But if we input our cost, which was 105,600 Rand in my case, and we then go our current electricity cost, which was R3.21, our average daily production, which we worked out at 17 kilowatt hours per day, and we're going to use that 15% we discussed earlier as our annual increase in electricity cost per year. And there you go, there's our 10-year rate of return, which is 14.37%. So that 298,000 Rand is our savings over 10 years after we've paid off our system. So if we wanted to just compare that to a stock market return, if you used the same 105,600 Rand and put it into the stock market, you'll see after 10 years, including your initial investment, you will have gotten 273,899. So our return in rands on our solar system was higher than a 10% stock market return, which would be pretty average for any equity investment. And the other awesome advantage is here, you wouldn't be liable for any tax to be paid on your return, because obviously this is a savings, not an income, whereas your stock market return would be subject to capital gains tax and dividend tax because it's an income. So that's just the awesome thing about saving on expenses and not having to pay for them. We also get to save on that. And we also didn't even look at any of the tax incentives that were brought into place this year. But just for the purpose of keeping this simple, we're not including those, but you could deduct that from your system cost as well. So what if you say to me, Jens, I don't have 100,000 Rand lying around. You could also use this sheet to work out if it's going to be worth taking a loan or a solar loan, because there are quite affordable options around. So what you could then do is take your loan agreement, and on that loan agreement you'll see the total loan cost, which is the cost of the system plus any interest that are charged over the loan agreement term. And this needs to be on that agreement. So if you have a look there and you see, I just had a quick look and I saw a very similar system which cost over 5 years 160,000 Rand, and that 160,000 Rand system would still return us 244,000 Rand over 10 years. And even if we do make our increases 0%, you'll see that over 10 years you still would have made your money back if your system performed the way my system performs. So just a quick way to check whether that's worth it. So let me know down in the comment section if you agree with my findings. If you don't agree, let me know why you don't agree, or run the numbers yourself and see what you're forecasting for the next 10 years or the lifetime of your system. So this is something I'm planning to do every 6 months, and we'll see if our forecast is actually taking place. So if you're interested in that, get subscribed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.